So today I'm going to be giving you my tips and my experience with the Harbor Freight Predator, the 212cc chipper shred. Here is the box that it arrived in. I've had it just about a month and it's already paid for itself 2 or 3 times over. So I've already, through watching the videos online, a lot of the shredders didn't get great, they were getting like 3.8, 4.2 stars out of 5. So some of the reviews online that I saw, people were complaining that the unit was getting blocked, jamming, not eating up the stuff easily, and so on. So I did hesitate quite a bit before buying this particular one. I liked this one because there were a couple of reviews of people who were kind of semi-professional, who used this for 2 or 3 years, and they said they'd got good usage out of it. So the purpose today is to just let you know that this thing has, over the last few times that I've used it in my yard, on branches from everything from small twigs, leaves, up to branches almost 3 inches thick. It's pretty much eaten through everything that I've given it. I did pay attention to the break-in period. You have to run this thing for 3 hours without any load, in other words, not doing any chipping on it, to make sure it's broken in. For those of you who remember vehicles from the 70s and 80s, those old motors in the cars, they had to be broken in. So for the first 1,000 miles or whatever it was, you would had to drive at no faster than, I think, 45, 50 miles an hour. People had bumper stickers that they put on there. Please pass me, I'm breaking in the motor. It's important that you do that with this chipper if you want long life out of it. So please read the instructions, pay attention to that. But the purpose of this video is to give you a few hints and tips on how to use this thing efficiently, how to get the most out of it and avoid some of the common problems. So we're going to get started with the tips. Before we do, let me just give you a 5 or 10 seconds overview of what I've been clearing and what I'm chipping, so you can compare that with what you have in your own yard. So today we've cleared some more of this, I think it's some kind of laurel tree, bay laurel. It grows like a weed. We just cleared this whole area. Here's the stack of wood that we've built up, and we're going to be grinding it all down with the shredder right here up on the hill. Again, in a nice shady spot. Okay, so let's get started with tip number 1. My first tip is that you don't need to spend minutes or hours or any time stripping off small twigs and small branches from the side of the main branch that you're trying to chip. I've seen people where they've stripped all of the leaves off and all of the side branches off, the small bendy side branches, before they put the bigger branch through. That's really not necessary. You can save a ton of time if you just put the branch through as it is, kind of fold back. You need to pull back the branches and stuff the leaves in. The branch itself will pull the leaves in through the main shredder, and eat the whole thing through. So let me just show you that on a brief clip. You'll see here that I'm folding back the branches and stuffing it in, and it pretty much eats the whole branch. So tip number 2, the shredder does come with a bag. They tell you that for safety reasons to always attach the bag to the outlet where the chips blow out. That's perfectly fine. However, my tip is to use a plastic trash can on its side. It won't catch all of the chips because some of them blow in and blow out of the bin, but it's going to catch probably 2/3 or 3/4 of what it is chipping. And that's much easier than cleaning out the bag, unzipping it, trying to shake it out. So if you're doing a lot of chipping, my recommendation is get yourself a couple of trash bins, cheap plastic black trash cans, put them on their side and blow the chips into there. That'll save you a ton of time because once the bin's full, you can just stand it up, put the next empty bin there and keep going. It's much more effective, especially it even works if you're planning to spread the chips around your yard, because then you can drag the bin off. Or indeed, if you're going to dump it, you can either dump it directly out of the bin, or you can consolidate it into your yard waste for your trash hauler. So let me show you that same clip again. You'll notice this time pay attention to the black bin that's on its side next to the machine. So my third tip is that if you're stuffing a branch in and you're trying to suck in the leaves with the branch and not everything goes in, some of the leaves may still be sticking out and it may not draw them in properly. What you can do is you can just keep going and feed a second branch in and use that branch to push the leaves in and suck them in with the second branch. Sometimes it helps if you rotate the branch, kind of spin it around a little bit so it drags the leaves down with it. So let me show you a clip, of how the second branch can pull in the leaves that are remaining. Tip number 4, if you're trying to stuff leaves through the main chipper input and they're still not going and you're having problems pushing them through with the second branch, what you can do is once the main branch has been chipped and the leaves are remaining and they're still sticking out of the feeder, you can go ahead and pull them out and put them in the top hopper, because that hopper can deal with small twigs and leaves much better. So let me show you how that works. Tip number 5. Clearing the top hopper is kind of counterintuitive. What I mean by that is if you have the top hopper gets blocked by little bendy twigs and leaves, instead of trying to stuff more down there, I've found that it actually is better to pull the stuff out and send it through a little piece at a time. And kind of break it up. So if it's in a big clump, it's just going to sit there on the inlet and it's not going to go in, and it's going to be very difficult to shove it in. And of course it's dangerous to push down too far. So what I found is that if you kind of pull it back and mix it a little bit, mix the things up so they become a bit looser, they're going to slide down into the hopper and they're going to go through much easier. So let me show you that clip. Okay, before I give you tip number 6, a couple of safety comments about that hopper. As you could see, first of all, it pulled the stuff through a lot easier if I kind of like flicked it up and kind of like took it out so it wasn't a clump sat in the top. You'll see that I was using a piece of old stick to push things in there. Please don't push your fingers in there. Of course, there are safety tips in the manual, which you should refer to. And then those rubber pieces that are supposed to be there for safety reasons. People have written that they're annoying because things get hung up on them and to take them off and so forth. I would encourage you not to do so. As you can see from there, I was lifting that up mainly to show you in the video, but I keep those down as much as possible. What I have found is that what they're particularly probably there for, I'm guessing, or the issue that I've found that's most dangerous is that if you put something through a bit thicker, I think it has a limit of about 1/2 inch for the top hopper. It's mainly for leaves and small twigs. If you put anything through thicker than that, or indeed if it's very dry, what'll happen is some of the chips will fly back up out of the top of the hopper, and that rubber shield, I believe, is there to stop those chips flying out and hitting somebody in your face. So again, make sure you've got the right safety equipment on, safety glasses, whatever. But if you're putting slightly bigger, if you accidentally or on purpose, if you put slightly bigger pieces into that top hopper, or they're very dry, look out, because it might spit them back, and they come back at quite a speed. So again, pay attention to safety and read everything that's in the manual. That's my recommendation. So now tip number 6, how to deal with thicker branches. Here I'll show you that the branches that I'm using, it's not a very hard wood, and like I said, this machine has eaten everything up almost up to the size of a 3-inch. The thicker pieces can be put in there. If you want to avoid stalling out the unit and maybe getting something jammed, you can feed it in piece by piece. So what I mean is you've got to keep a hold of it. You can push it in slightly and then immediately pull it back. You just got to be a bit careful, because the machine, I have found, obviously it's designed to pull items in. The thicker the branch, the harder it's going to snatch at it. So you've just got to be a little bit cognizant, aware that if you're putting a thicker branch through, it may pull a little bit harder than it did with the small ones. But the tip for keeping the machine running and not overloading it is to push it in a little bit and then pull it back, push it in a little bit and pull it back, so it's nibbling away at the thicker branch. And then towards the end, when you're down to about 1.5 inches, you can let the whole thing go through. So let me show you a tip on that one. Excuse me, a clip on that one. So, some tips about thicker branches. First of all, it's not the thickness of the branch per se that can cause jams, I've found. It can be stubs of the smaller branches that have been trimmed off that can make it too wide to go through the feeder. And also if the branch has a bend in it. So what I mean is, like, the machine is designed to take up to 3-inch diameter, but that includes any offset. So what I mean is, if the branch bends around a corner, and that makes the whole thing kind of, if you look on the end of it, if the whole thing, including the bend, the piece that's past the bend, is wider than 3-inch, then it's going to jam. Also, if there are stubs that make the branch wider than 3 inches at a particular point, it could also jam as it goes down. So you've just got to pay attention to that. With a little bit of experience, you'll get used to what it'll eat and what it won't. But just pay attention to trimming the stubs of the side branches as close as possible to the main branch, and also not putting through anything that has too much of a bend or a corner in it. So that piece in that video clip was about probably just under 2 inches thick. As you can see, it ate it up pretty well, but I had to pay attention to removing the side pieces. Because it was not close to 3 inches. Some of the stubs that were left on the side were okay, and it ate them through, but I did pay attention to trimming them as close as possible to the main branch. So again, as long as there are not too many stubs on the side, it'll eat up pretty much anything. Like I say, that piece was probably around 2 inches or just under, and it ate it up pretty well. Tip number 8. Are the chips coming out too big? You need something finer. Well, some of the branches, particularly going through the bottom, can come out fairly big chips. Well, that's easy. Just pick up handfuls of the chips or dig them up with a shovel and put them in the top hopper. The top hopper will chip them finer. You can put them through a couple of different times and you'll get smaller chips. Some people complain about the size of the chips. Well, here's the solution. So now my final tip. The unit has a bottom feeder into the chipper and a top hopper, as you guys know and you've seen in the video. What I've found is that if you're working with somebody, you can use both the hopper at the top and the chipper at the bottom simultaneously. There's no need to just use either one or the other. So I usually have somebody helping me, often my wife. She'll deal with the small leaves and the small twigs in the top hopper while I'm chipping the bigger stuff in the bottom, and the machine has no problem with this. So again, you can have twice the productivity if you're working with somebody and the two of you can work together. The person on the top, if they have some twigs, anything that's a little bit too thick, they'll put it in the pile for me to chip in the bottom feeder. And likewise, if I have anything left over from my thicker branches at the bottom, small twigs, leaves or whatever, my wife who's helping me will feed those into the hopper while I'm still working. So that'll double your productivity. I don't have a video clip of that particular scenario, but I hope you've enjoyed all these hints and tips for the shredder. If you have, please subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when I post other tips and hints on DIY topics that I've learned over the years. Thank you for watching.